Chapter 11. The arrival of the first test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Monsters are here. Those words made my heart drop as I look out the window of the cave only to see that it was dusk. I was lost in my focusing, that I was only able to come up with one spell that used all of my mana to be cast one time, and I didn't have time to find out the range of the ball or even the suction after it implodes. My mother and father look at each other and tell me to sit back down, and then they race to the exit to face the monsters. Even in the few seconds while that happened, I could hear loud roars and could feel the tremors as the fighting between my family and the monsters start. I slap myself to help get up the courage, and after resolving myself I force mana back into my legs while at the same time using mana absorption to constantly be topped up, and after a bit I was able to manipulate the mana to act as the muscles, and soon I was able to hobble towards the entrance, my worry for the ones I care about rising every second I wasn't there to help. I near the entrance to the cave to see my father and Gaia and even Orim on the front lines holding back what looked like rhinos, except there were different kinds. Some had white fur with a frost hanging off of them, to others that had black fur but a tinge of distortion, almost like a heat wave coming off of its body. While the others were behind and firing off spells, I could see how Mariko was shooting ice-covered earth bullets that would slam into the black rhinos, cutting them while also lowering the temperature they naturally produced, while Tyrol was shooting off fire versions of the bullets against the white ones, creating a normal fighting area for the frontliners. I see Lacius shooting water slashes to help push the rhinos back, and every so often a small water ball would splash against the defenders while they were locked in contact with the monsters, and for a second glow blue before they were able to push them back. I would see a shadow along the back of the rhinos, and for a split second I would see Jaspin appear from them and slash at the legs, then disappear again, while finally the pompous Salus would be sending tightly packed wind bullets with dirt or whatever he could find, then sending it into the eyes of the monsters, and then laugh as the monsters roared at being blinded. Even knowing that the monsters were here to kill me and by extension them, I still found it hard to get over the fact that Salus found enjoyment out of such underhanded tactics, but I guess from a survival standpoint it was a good idea. It was just that he was doing it for fun, not for survival, that I found disturbing. Finally, after my disgust settled, I saw my mom casting spells over the others. Some would glow white while others would glow blue, which after a little bit I figured that some spells healed HP while the others healed MP, which would make sense for how many spells were being fired. I figured it's time I joined the fight, but first I need to check my stats and see what new things I gained to better strategize. Vexus, Dragon Hatchling, Variant, Health 120 MP 30/30ths, Stamina 140 STR 3 Vit 4.5 SPD 2 Dex 1 Con 1.5 and 1 Mental Fortitude LVL 0.5 Shadow Strike 0/10 Heat Resistance 30% Smoke Breath 0/20 Smoke Stream 0/10 Smoke Blast 1/10 Mana Absorption 15% Mana Storage LVL 1 Mana Manipulation LVL 1 and 3/20 Spatial Bullet LVL 00/10. I was confused at that last skill, Spatial Bullet. When did I learn that? But a light bulb goes off after reading the description: shoot a bullet using space mana to create a distortion in space. That sounds very similar to what happened after my mana bullet hit the hide. So I have the space element. It looks like my mana isn't exactly neutral after all. But forcing my mind back into the present situation, I go as fast as I can over to my mother. "Mom, I'm here. What can I do? I can't sit by while you all fight without me." "Vexus, go back inside now. You're in no condition to help us. We have this, please. You're just going to be in the way." Hearing that did hurt, but I understood where she was coming from. But I was determined to participate, even if solely for the fact to show Gluttony that I was making progress. So with her focused on the fight, I was able to sneak off to the side, and after thinking for a second I came up with a plan to slowly flow smoke to create a thick fog over the rhinos. I started off by using Smoke Stream, then slowing my exhales until it became a natural slow breath, which resulted in more of a rolling condensed smoke. After using a few more streams to kind of create an air pathway to blow the fog in the direction I wanted, I could see the smoke slowly creep over the feet of the monsters. Then I switched to full-on smoke breaths to cover the rest of their bodies, providing relief for the defenders and a diversion for the monsters. "Vexus, where are you? You need to go back inside now. This is not a place for you. Yeah, weakling, leave the fighting to us that are capable. You have already interrupted my killing spree." Brother, please just worry about yourself, we are more than capable of handling these vermin. I heard all of this from them and more, but my only focus was proving myself, so pushing even more of my mana into my legs I forced my body to start to dash into the smoke towards the rhinos, and when I encountered one having trouble breathing from the poisonous effects of my smoke I would use Shadow Strike. At first it was useless because compared to their toughened bodies my claws might as well have been made of plastic, but what it did was make the monsters more nervous, which then caused their breaths to quicken, breathing in more and more of my poisonous smoke, and after a few minutes of constant shadow strikes, it was hard to breathe even though it was my own smoke and I had to leave the fog and dash towards my mom for help, but I could feel the tremors and the sounds of heavy thuds of bodies hitting the ground. Vexus, just what in the God's name do you think you're doing? You stopped us from fighting and even blocked our view of the enemy. What are we supposed to do now? Also, how are you moving? This is still too soon for you to be fully healed. Father, please forgive me, I could not just sit by as the monsters attacked us. I still care about a few of you, and as I told you, this was my test that I plan to pass, but do not worry, I have a feeling that after my smoke passes the enemy will either be dead or easy to kill. My smoke once inhaled has a suffocating and poisonous effect. But mother, please can you heal me? I have overused my mana to move my legs in order to keep moving, and now I am running on empty. My mom looked at me and was about to cast a spell, but then it clicked what I said. Wait, did you say you used your mana to make your legs work? Does that mean this whole time your back legs have still been unusable, but you've been forcing them to work through mana manipulation? Yes, I can feel that I have caused some damage, but I figure that after a while it will be fixed. No, you stupid boy, it's not fixable. Forcing mana to do what you have done takes extreme tolls on your body. She bursts into tears. Honey, once you release your mana, the amount of pain you will feel will be otherworldly. You're running on a fighter's high and using mana to reinforce your body to reduce what you feel. With tears in her eyes, she gathers a large amount of white light and places it onto my body. Greater replenish, and everything goes white as I hear nothing but a loud scream erupt from my throat and then nothing. I wake up to see the entire family around me. Mom and Dad have worried expressions while Gaia has a mix of pride and worry, and the others have a mix of panic while looking at Orem and a mix of disgust while looking down at me. It seems that the followers are starting to have their doubts while the top dogs are getting fed up with my antics. I hear a few dings go off before I try to turn and stand up. No, you must stay down now that you forced your body to move, even going so far to use mana. Your muscles are overcharged and are constantly fighting your body. I had to use a spell that would numb your body so that you would feel as little pain as possible, but once it wears off your legs will have a mind of their own and start to spasm in pain. What you did was very reckless. No matter what the benefits, the outcome ended up with you being as you are. No matter what, you will not leave this bed, so do not make me tie you down with a spell, because I will, little one. Your mother is right, what you did was really irresponsible, but besides that I do have to thank you for what you did, even if they do not want to admit it. Orem and the others were showing signs of exhaustion, and that smokescreen of yours came just in the nick of time. Yes, thank you brother, I greatly appreciate you coming when you did, but please don't put yourself at risk just for what you call a test. It isn't worth all that you're going through now. Fine, I agree. Even with mother's spell I can feel a tightness in my legs and I can feel my mana temporarily weakened. It seems that what I did had a bigger cost than what I originally figured, but if I could protect my family and prove to myself that I am not helpless, then the pain I'm suffering now is well worth it. Vexus, Con 1.5. 3.5, Mental Fortitude has maxed out, conditions have been met. The skill Pain Tolerance has been given, new, Pain Tolerance 550. Able to withstand physical pain easier. New, Rolling Fog LVL 1 April 10th. Using slow breaths of smoke, able to create a slow fog to cover the ground. Chapter 12. Another day, another problem. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After they leave I just sit there for a few minutes thinking over what happened and how I could have done better. I feel bad for making them worry about me again, but for a brief second I felt useful, and if I am to continue on my path to overcome all of this I needed this boost in confidence. I was about how I could further enhance my strength, but the only thing that comes to mind right now is to just try and increase my skill list as a whole. I had an idea while fighting that what if I could make a ball of smoke that just stayed around the enemy's head that would be better for when I am fighting with others at my side instead of just disrupting everyone's vision. But I couldn't think of how I could shape my mouth to make just a ball unless it was to create the smoke blast, but that is more explosive than what I was thinking. But what if I could use wind magic? If Salus wasn't so sadistic and hated my guts, I would ask him for help. So next best thing is, fake it till you make it. I will imitate his wind ability that I saw him use, and maybe I can use that as a base to combine with my smoke breath. I had to ask for some kind of target due to what my spatial bullet did to the hide from before, but after a bit my father brought in a human chest piece which was decently okay, enough to be for target practice anyway. I focused on trying to remember what Salus was using during the fight. If I had thought about it more clearly I would have studied all of their elements more before now, but hindsight being what it is, I can only lament and move forward. But after a few minutes I was able to remember him slashing with his hand that glowed green for a second before a wind slash appeared and flew towards the monsters. Thinking about it I came to the conclusion that I would have to physically create some wind and then use my own mana and create a slash. It might be flawed of course, but it was a starting point. I tried to slash and create a draft, but with my body being hurt I wasn't able to go fast enough, and even moving as fast as I could caused my body to ache. Since that was a bust I had to rethink a bit, and then I had a facepalm moment because a better way to create some wind was using what I do naturally to live. Which was to breath. Using that I focused a small amount of mana in my mouth and then blew out without using my smoke and was able to feel like my breath was more forceful than normal. So instead of my mouth, what if I focused on my lungs instead and used mana to enforce the air inside first before exhaling? I spent a few minutes topping up real quick just in case, and then using that method I exhaled as hard as I could and I blew away the chest piece, slamming it into the wall while also basically spinning myself like a top and slamming myself into the wall behind me. I coughed up blood and was feeling a massive throbbing from my back and legs. It seems that the spell is starting to wear off, but hearing the loud commotion my mom came running back in with a worried expression. "Vexus, what happened? What was that noise?" "It was nothing, I was just trying to learn how to harness wind magic to use with my smoke breath." "You fool, this can only be my fault for not teaching you. I overlooked it due to how well you learned by yourself that I forgot to tell you that using your mana after what you did could have permanent negative effects." "Of course, why didn't I think of that? I mean, I felt like absolute dog crap when I ran out of MP, so why wouldn't something like this be true, Oswell? So it looks like I will be focusing on healing naturally and just be useless." With an expression of defeat I look up at my mom. "I'm sorry, I should have thought about something like that happening. As long as you realize your mistake I won't give it any more thought. However, after you heal up enough to use your magic without hurting yourself I will come and teach more about it, but for now I will just cast another healing boost and come back in a few hours to see how you're feeling." "Okay Mom, thank you for everything." As she walked away I had a thought. What if I didn't have to rely on healing spells? What if my body was able to recover all on its own just by sending mana through it, or maybe some other method that didn't require mana? Seeing as right now I need to think in terms of magic lockdown before I get beat for not listening, I was going to start coming up with a game plan, but I got a notification first. The condition. Passed the first test has been completed, message from ancestor acquired. Do you wish to listen? Yes or now? Of course I selected yes, and after a second a voice played in my ear. Ahem. Ahem. Testing, this is your ancestor. I saw that you passed the test. I was surprised at your perseverance and tactics. But I am also upset at how much of a risk you took, so as a reward for passing I am going to unlock your devour skill in the hopes that your body is strong enough to withstand it unlike the first time. I suggest that you heal up as soon as possible because since you showed some surprises I will be sending along a few more tests and goals. Just think of this as a side quest from the games of your old world. Good luck my descendant. Message end. New skills unlocked. The skill Devour has been acquired. The skill Assimilation has been acquired. The skill Chimera has been acquired. With a huge smile on my face at getting new skills I immediately open up my skills page and look at them in detail. Devour LVL 0/1/10. Consume flesh and energy of living and non-living things, can store genetic material for healing or for body improvement. Assimilation LVL 00/10. Using the genetic material from consumed flesh and energy able to strengthen the user's body in different ways depending on what has been consumed. Chimera LVL00/10. Consuming enough of a species will grant the user the ability to partially morph and exhibit parts of the species devoured. Later levels allow for more species to be used. Sweet, with all of that opening up the possibilities just came flooding in, but I am confused. What does it mean by 1/10 on my devour skill? Did it count even though it happened near the beginning of my time in this world? If so, does that mean I assimilated the meat from back then, or since it failed does it not count as working since assimilation is 0/10? Tis was a bit confusing, but not being able to get the answer I just decided to do the next best thing, eat. I called for my mom. When she came I asked for some food, saying, "Mom, I wasn't trying to use mana or anything, but I figured out that I had a skill that would allow me to heal using food and other things, so I was wondering if you could bring me a lot of meat and maybe even the skin or fur of the creatures from the fight." She looked at me with a strange look on her face. "That is a strange skill, but if it can do what you say it can, then just give me a moment to see what I can find." Then she left, and after a few more minutes she brings what looks like some of the leg meat from the rhinos, and I could spot some even having the skin and white and black fur. If this works, then we can start your training sooner. However, keep this a secret because this could be seen as taking away from the others, but since you cannot hunt for yourself right now, I will take the blame if they find out. Now I have to leave and finish training with the others. I will be back to see if it worked or not. After she left, I picked up one of the black rhino's legs and, just focusing on the meat, I took a bite, but shortly found out that just like the creature when it was alive, the meat itself is tough and unforgiving when bitten into. I could have sworn that if I were still human I would have lost all my teeth trying to bite this. Seeing as how I couldn't eat it like this, I decided to smoke it and make it a bit more edible. Looking around and wondering how I could accomplish this task, I get another notification. Optional tasks: 1. Kill and devour 5 creatures. Rewards: nothing. Are you crazy? You're lucky I'm giving you this much. 2. Learn another element. 3. Learn invisibility. Looking over the optional tasks, I was at first angry at the rewards just because I was hoping I would get some cool stuff, but I guess using devour I could gain some good skills. But what is with the third task? Why do I need to learn invisibility? Wouldn't that require that I learn light magic? After contemplating what that meant, I could only think that maybe something would happen in the future where I would need to hide. Who knows, but that changed what I planned on doing. First on the agenda, heal as fast as possible, which means figuring out how to smoke this rock-hard meat. I look around again, and after a few minutes I couldn't really find something to hold the meat while I smoke it, but I just had to set it down, and after creating an area to contain it and a small hole to slowly fumigate the area, I just started laying on the smoke, and thankfully my rolling fog ability came in handy. Unfortunately, after a few minutes I was getting lightheaded. I closed up the hole, let the smoke be contained. I rested until the lightheadedness passed, then I keep at it until finally I was able to eat the meat with little difficulty. Eating the whole leg like it was candy, I got a notification. Fire rhino consumed, assimilate. Y/N, I selected yes immediately, and I get a new message: due to body of user being in weakened state, devoured material will be prioritized as healing. I feel a wave of energy blast through my body, and I hear cracking from my back and legs before a wave of pain washes over me shortly after, and I pass out. Just kidding, haha, got you, reader. I look down towards my legs to see them start to bulge while I feel my back start to do the same, and I can hear popping sounds and stabs of pain as I assume my spine is popping back into place. I can feel my blood flowing like a river through my veins and my muscles flexing, trying to contain the healing power rushing through me. After 30 minutes of a combination of healing comfort and the pain of my body being fixed, I finally breath in relief, and I get up slowly and find that I was able to use my back legs, which means that my back was fixed as well. A feeling of happiness overtakes me and I jump up and down, enjoying the feeling of using my legs again. Chapter 13. Another day, another problem. PT2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While caught up in the joys of being healed, I was oblivious to what was going on around me until I heard a small cough, which caused me to stop and slowly turn my head to find that Gaia had come to check in on me. Hello Gaia, how are you today? Well, Vexus, I could say that it's going just about the same as usual, except in front of me is my weakened brother who is not supposed to be moving around, let alone jumping up and down. Let me guess, you're using mana again to use your legs. You know you're not supposed to be doing this. I am going to go get Mom. It's for your own good. And he turns to leave, but I ran over to him and stopped him. Gaia, listen, I am not using my mana. After doing some deep self-thought, I discovered that I had a skill that by eating something I could heal myself. I told Mom, and in turn she got me some of the rhino meat to test the skill on, and it worked. As you can see, I am back at full health and feel amazing. With a look of doubt he did a couple of circles around me. It seemed like he looked at damn near every scale on my body before finally sighing. Fine, I'll believe you, but this is incredible. To have a skill like this is just crazy. The potential hidden behind this skill is too great to even think about. The types of training you could do could be hellish, and yet if you had food you would be perfectly fine afterwards. Brother, please teach me this skill. I'll do anything, please. I'm sorry Gaia, I do not think this is something I can teach. I feel like it is an essential part of my soul and unique to me. To say that the look on my little, huge, brother's face was heartbreaking was a vast understatement, because I wanted him to not only get stronger to better help me with my plans, but in my head he was becoming firmly rooted as someone who I truly cared about and wanted to see succeed. So I vowed then and there to do my best and help him learn and strive for the best. Gaia, brother, what would you say if I could instead teach you other things? Granted, it may not be much now as obviously you are stronger than me, but when I gain strength I will do my best to share it with you. How does that sound? I will vow to see you as an equal. All I ask is that you see me in the same light. You could see on his face that after every sentence his mood shifted, becoming first distraught to a little pensive. Finally you could see the joy and the spark of excitement in his eyes as I gave him my promise. He nodded rapidly, thanking me continuously until I shooed him away to let me get back to eating, and after he left and I sat down to start smoking my next piece of meat, I receive another notification. Vow with the dragon, Gaia, has been accepted. Message incoming from ancestor. Ahem, descendant, I see that you have made your first vow in this world. I should have told you the power behind those words, but I did not think that you would be this like this nor care about another individual as you've shown. Now I do not know if this is out of self-interest or if you actually care about this little dragon, nor do I care. However, I can give you the power to grant a weakened version of my sin to others, but in doing so you will change their fates from what the world intended for their souls, and doing this will gain the attention of the world's sentience. I suggest you train to get stronger, and after you have completed the tasks given to you we can discuss this new avenue of power. For now I'll add another task to your list which will give you a way to contact me. As always, good luck. After that a new screen popped up with the new task. Build altar for Saiyan, gluttony. Great, so not only do I have to go kill and eat monsters and learn light magic to turn invisible, I also have to become a dam builder as well. At least I can see the end goals associated with these tasks, as of course killing and eating would gain me much needed experience and grant me a stronger body, and the new magic element was self-explanatory. I was still a bit confused at what my ancestor was hinting at by giving me the task of learning invisibility, and frankly I was a bit worried about whatever that situation may be, but the skill would still be useful in other situations that were not as stressful. Keeping to myself for the rest of the day, I had a visit from Mom like she said she would do, and she was of course very excited and happy to learn that I could heal with as simple a thing as eating, but she also cried tears of joy to see me stand up and walk towards her. I did as best a hug as I could do, considering my body is a quadrupedal form, but the intent was there as she did the same. We chatted for a bit about what my next goals were, and I told her I would finish the rest of what she gave me to make sure I made a full recovery, and then by the time it was all finished I would be happy to start attending her magic lessons as well as start going back to hunting with Dad. After she left I went back to smoking pieces of meat, but this time I decided to try eating the skin and some of the fur, since the skills said that I was able to consume inorganic material as well, but that begged the question, was there a limit to what inorganic meant? Like, could I munch on some gold and then wash it down with a bottle of acid, or was it only applied to like maybe trees? That was a mix of organic and inorganic in my opinion, but that rabbit hole was reserved to be dove into at a later time as I cooked the skin along with the meat while imagining it as a roast and then sprinkling the fur like a garnish. Surprisingly, the skin turned into a nice crunchy layer, and in between the skin and the meat was a layer of fat that, thanks to the smoke and heat, melted into a perfect juicy steak. Like meal. The best part that was, although I was enjoying this basic but delicious meat, I got a ding as a screen appeared. Fire rhino consumed, assimilate. Y/N, pressing yes released a torrent of energy out from my stomach into the rest of my body as I could feel a heat rising inside me before dwindling back down to normal. I felt a surge of strength while also getting more pop-ups. Genetic material has been assimilated, now acquiring appropriate skills. Sorting of genetic code has been completed, generating list of potential skills now. I was a bit confused by this. I figured I would just gain skills like I read back in the old world from different novels and saw from anime, but it seems like I would have to choose. Does that mean that I am limited to what I can acquire? Or does that mean that the amount I ate was insufficient to gain everything? Skills obtainable from current fire rhino material. Rage. Focusing only on the anger within, increase STR and SPD but lower all defenses. Heat resistance. Skill already acquired, capable of increasing own skill. Fire hide. Passively generate heat aura, capable of reaching melting temperatures. Able to control heat emitted at higher levels. Fire stampede. Unleash a fire surrounding your body and rush at your enemy. I took a while to look at the 4 skills I could learn. One I could use to strengthen what I already have, one I could use to strengthen myself for short bursts in battle, and then the last 2 I could gain but without an understanding of fire magic was essentially useless but had the potential of giving me insight into the element. Pondering on my options, I decided to get Rage, just for the fact that until I am strong enough to not need it, it would be best to have something like this in case of deadly emergencies. I understood the risks, but if I was going to die anyways, I felt like it would be best to not be the only one going down. With that decided, I turned towards the slow smoked meat of the white-furred rhino. I wondered if I was going to gain similar options or if some twist of the universe would grant me an OP skill from the start, like maybe a ice beam that freezes on contact with my enemies, or even like the power to breathe out a ice fog. That would be nice. Shaking my head and waking up from my daydream, I start to eat the meat, which weirdly, no matter how hot the smoke was, the meat had a sort of chilled temperature to it, which I'll admit was a little off-putting since my meals so far consisted of at least room temp meat. I dug in nonetheless with a look of excitement as I could only imagine at what I could get. I stare at the screen in front of my eyes with my mouth hanging to the floor. Rage. Skill already acquired, capable of increasing own skill. Ice resistance. Capable of handling extremely low temperatures. Frost hide. Passively generate a cold aura, capable of reaching freezing temperatures. Able to control coldness emitted at higher levels. Frost stampede. Unleash ice surrounding your body and rush at your enemy. What the hell is this? It's all the same stuff as the fire rhino except with frost in the name instead of fire. I knew it was going to end up like this, but still, are the two so similar that even their skills are just copies of each other? It goes without saying that I was a bit disappointed, but in the end I chose ice resistance just to widen what I could defend against. A guy could never have too much defense. After my excitement/disappointment ended, I had a new idea come to mind. What if I ate the horn as well? Could I gain something from eating that, or does it even matter as long as I eat material from the creature as a whole? There was only one way to find out, and with that in mind I head out into the main area where everybody sits and relaxes after the day is done. Unfortunately, I did not know that in my focus on eating I was unaware that today was a resting day for the others, and not giving it much thought I saunter into the area without a care in the world, expecting nobody to be around, only to have all of their eyes on me and with extreme shock on their faces, except Gaia and Mom, of course. Vexus, what is the meaning of this? You were told not to do something so reckless as using mana again. Boy, this is outrageous. My dad had a look of extreme anger at the thought of me disobeying yet again. Solace, the boy is not using mana, he gained a skill that let him recover simply by eating. I do not the specifics of this skill, but by the way he looks it seems to have worked, so please calm down and just enjoy that our son is healthy again. Hesitant to accept what was in front of his eyes, my dad could only examine me in detail to make sure that what Mom told him was true. Well, he does seem to be looking better, and I do not sense any magic being used. So boy, tell me, did you truly gain a skill that heals you just from eating? Yes, father, as long as I have enough food my body is able to heal. It is not as powerful as you may think, but it is helpful given the current conditions. I of course lied because I did not want to share just how amazing and potentially OP this was in the long run. But this was short-lived, as I hear a loud huff and footsteps approaching me as a golden body stood in front of my eyes. So with as much niceness that I could muster, I look up at Orams as he glares down at me. Hello little brother, how can I help you today? Humph, I don't believe these obvious lies. You're telling us that with as simple an act as eating you can recover from a broken back and overusage of mana? Absolutely no way. There has never been any mention of such a skill being passed down in our family. If there was, then how could it fall into your hands and not into the hands of someone who could use it effectively as me? Being too happy to let this guy get me down, I just stare up at him, listening to the hate drip off of every word. Little brother, maybe the world saw fit to grant me such an amazing skill knowing that your body was strong enough as it is and that I would need this handicap to even think of catching up with your potential. But in my head I thought, you little shit, just you wait, once I get strong enough I will make you kneel to my power. You had better enjoy this while you can. New Rage LVL 10/10. Focusing only on the anger within, increase STR and SPD but lower all defenses. New Ice resistance 0%. Capable of handling extremely low temperatures. Chapter 14. Time to hunt. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The exchange between Oram and me left a bad taste in my mouth, only because since I just healed I didn't want to start another fight and end up hurt again. Even with my new skills I learned my lesson, and I will just bide my time until I can overpower him with ease, which ended up with a surprising ding going off in my head. But as I was on a mission I pushed it away. I decided that after a short rest to refresh my mind I will head out and fulfill my first task of hunting. I wanted to bring Gaia, but when I went to get him and ask him to join me I saw that he was in the middle of training in the form of meditation. I knew the benefits of doing this, so I just left him and went on my first hunt by myself. I started by heading into the small clearing where I had learned my breath attack and its variants. I figured that enough time has passed and I might catch a glimpse of some small prey to start off slow. Since I didn't finish training with Dad, my knowledge of hunting as a dragon was a little flawed, but I just supplemented with how humans hunt and just picked a tree and scaled it up to a semi-large branch that could hold my weight. I knew that if I was going to be playing the waiting game I should try and train a bit, and I figured as long as I didn't disturb the peace and quiet I could kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. I closed my eyes and imagined the mana that was inside my body leaving and slowly spreading out and essentially mapping out the surrounding areas. It was hard to keep my MP at max as with absorption while at the same time sending it out into a radius around me. Found out that to do this required a good chunk of my MP, not only to send it out but also to keep it in a radius-like position and not just dissipate. After an hour of constant absorption and manipulation I finally got the skill I was hoping to get as a pop. Up for a new skill appears. Conditions have been met. The skill, detection, has been granted. And with that I sit back and relax to train the two skills that I see great potential in. About 30 minutes later I feel like a tugging sensation in my head that is pulling me mentally towards a direction. So curious I look around and I see a couple of rabbits hopping towards the clearing just barely inside of my detection zone. I decide it's time to hunt and I slowly climb down the tree, which was nerve-wracking because I climbed down snout first, which was a whole new experience for me, but I got down and slowly hunkered and moved as quietly as I could. I sneak up on them and I had to jump out of the way of a stone spike that was flying towards me as I see one of the hares turn around and with a move straight out of a cartoon jump up and kick a rock that turned into a spike towards me. I dodged and sent a stream of smoke towards them, hoping to blind them and settle back down for a sneak attack, but even with the smoke I could see clumps of dirt being thrown at my location from within the smoke. As confused as I was, I had no choice but to figure out how to either escape or to kill these creatures. It was only a matter of time till they succumbed to the smoke, but I was being forced to dodge stones and hardened dirt like it was a shooting gallery and I was a moving target. I decided to just go ahead and start using my spatial bullets. I shot 5 into the smoke, and shortly after you could see the smoke start to get sucked into a small void as I was lucky enough to hit one of the rabbits. It was a bit gruesome as the point of impact sucked in the rabbit's foot as it was descending from a kick, and it started to get sucked in with dirt and smoke and other debris. I was shocked at the scene, but once I realized that I couldn't eat it if it got sucked in, I stopped using the bullet. I labeled that skill as a condition only use, with that condition being life or death. For the other, it started burrow into the ground, and I could feel the ground shake and get more violent as the rabbit got closer. I got a little frightened when everything stopped and it all became eerily quiet. I could not sense anything around me, but I had not gotten to the point where I could sense things underground. It was too dense to send my mana into the earth for now. A few minutes go by and still nothing, no sounds, nothing, so I figure it had ran away from what happened to its friend, and since the noise obviously scared away any potential prey, I had to leave and look for a new spot. I walked for at least a good hour just enjoying the hike and taking in the nature around me. I come upon a good-sized stream and decided to rest here and get some water. As I look into the stream, I notice some fish laying down at the bottom of the stream. I can tell it is at least a good 1.5 feet in length, while also being a good deal wider. An image of me reeling in a big fat one and roasting it over a fire played through my head, which caused my mouth to start drooling at the thought of roasted fish. Maybe I could find some herbs or go back to the home garden and pick some things for the fish. But as I was daydreaming, I get blasted in the face by a jet of water coming from the stream, and a mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth snap shut inches away from my nose. In shock, I looked down to see that the fish I had thought was small on the bottom was actually very large, and the bottom of the stream was actually much deeper than I thought, with very clear water, which lead to a very misleading, almost disastrous outcome. After jumping back, I realize how totally clueless I was to how this world's environment works. The ecosystem is very violent at best, to the point where normally docile creatures that I thought was a cute little bunny could end up pelting me with rocks like some crazed earth mover. I just say screw it and I wait for the fish to jump up and strike again, but this time I swipe at it with my claws and was able to knock it out of the water, where it flopped and jumped for a few seconds until finally I could see the life fade from its otherwise predatory gaze. Being thankful that I could get a meal out of this with as little surprises as possible, I bring together some wood and other small things together into a fire area which I had cleared out beforehand, and thinking a bit outside the box, I exhaled smoke onto the fire pit until I could see small embers attached to the kindling, and using a method I saw on a survival show way back when, I slowly breath on the ember, until finally a small flame appears, which I put underneath some small twigs and branches until it can support itself. Then I skewer the fish and lay it over top of the fire, as I didn't want to build a whole campfire, just something for a quick cook. Up. But let me say that after having meat for so long, the freshness and smell of that fish after it was done cooking was out of this world. The taste was definitely a palate cleanser from all of the red meat and veggies from the garden. It was a welcome change that fortunately gained me a notification. Stream piranha consumed, assimilate Y/N. After hitting yes, I get the usual message of sequencing and coding and the like, and with excitement I look over the new list of skills. Skills obtainable from current material: swimming. Able to swim faster, power bite. Increase biting strength, jet stream. Shoot a small stream of water at high velocity towards a target. Harden scales. Increase in natural thickness in scales, leading to a rise in defense. I was a bit let down by the number of skills obtainable, especially swimming, since I could learn that on my own, but I was a bit intrigued by the hardened scales perk. It was a passive like what Eve been picking, and this one actually increased my defense directly as well as it did it permanently. So with the decision made, I chose the skill and waited for the rush of energy. The skill, hardened scales, has been selected now. Assimilating with body, I feel a slight tingling on my skin as the scales started to expand, and after a bit started to overlap, and on my legs the scales turned into a few large scales that was extra thick and took on more of a green shield-like scale, while on my head and eyes they turned into a hardened cap, sort of like how an ancient dinosaur known for headbutting looked. My underbelly gained some small scales. It seemed that even with the new passive my underbelly would still be a big weakness to look out for. After the surge dies down, I notice that the sun is starting to get a little low and the forest around me is starting to get active. Not wanting to encounter something out here especially at night without my dad to help protect against something extremely dangerous like the shadow eaters, I race home using every bit of stamina I have, and before long I was heaving and trying to catch my breath, but I could now see the stone wall outlying the garden just a few hundred meters in front of me. About that time I could hear a low growl emanate from a short distance behind me as the forest around me starts to darken and I feel a pressure pushing down on me. Mana absorption, 15%. 50%, mana manipulation, LVL1. LVL2 0/30, new, detection, 0%. By manipulation of the ambient mana, the user is able to create a circle of awareness using the caster as the center. Spatial bullet, 0/10. May 10th, smoke breath, 0/20. January 20th, smoke stream, 0/10. 2 out of 10, new, hardened scales, LVL1 0/10. Increase in natural thickness in scales leading to a rise in defense. Devour, 3 out of 10. April 10th, assimilate, February 10th. March 10th SPD. 2. 4.5. Chapter 15. A master calls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I turn around slowly, hoping that whatever it was that growled like that was not what I was afraid of. Only to see a wolf with blood-red fur and black obsidian claws that was staring right at me like I was a meal ready to gulp down. I didn't know what to do, so I just blew out a smoke blast in its direction, hoping to catch it off guard while at the same time flinging myself closer to home. And sending out a blast like that is a clear sign that something is happening. I just hope that my family is fast enough to get here. However, what happened was that the wolf dodged it and was on me almost as soon as I landed and rolled on the ground. Good thing was, I landed closer to garden wall, so that right there told me that my power was growing, but bad news, I was now pinned with a slobbering, possibly rabid wolf looking into my soul. You are very weak, little dragon, but that blast of hot air you just blew at me was definitely unexpected. Did your father teach you that? If so, then I wonder how strong little Solace has become since the last time I saw him. The wolf spoke those words as unpinned me and I was able to stand back up. How do you know my father? And if I may, who are you? I ask, but shortly afterwards I feel a giant gust of wind, and before me is my father, whose red scales seem to almost glow in the fading light and who also slams down hard enough to create a crater, and next to him is my mother, whose green scales unleash an almost calming gleam, and also she lands way better. Solace, you know that you don't have to show off just because it's in front of Vexus. He already knows how powerful you are, and also, you just destroyed part of my garden. You better pray to our ancestors that those were not my rare herbs. Ha 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 ha, it looks like you two are doing just as well. I see, it has been a while. Solace, Nidali, I see that you were cursed with a runt. Master Lucan, it is a pleasure to see you again after so long. Yes, Vexus is the runt, but it was due a monster slipping into our home and trying to take him away while still in the egg. We were successful in killing the creature, but Vexus had prematurely hatched. He may be the runt, but his is the oldest of the bunch and he is very unique. I heard the blast, so you must have seen his smoke blast attack. But enough about this and that, let's go inside and introduce you to our other children and discuss why you are really here in a safer location. After my dad and mom, and I guess the wolf master. Who knows, but after we get back home I take off after grabbing some food and go to lay down after the massive near heart attack I had at the hands of what's his face. I can tell he is powerful, but why did he act like that in the first place? Was it a test? If so, then is he going to test the others? Wait, I know a similar theme that I read about. A master takes and trains a family's most talented child to take on their legacy. But what would a wolf's legacy do for a dragon? Or wait, this could just be a form that the wolf takes on and is not actually his true form. Oh, the intrigue and the potential drama, my mind is racing for the answers. I will just have to wait and see what happens. In the meantime I will just be patient and continue my training. This time, however, I will just focus on increasing my understanding of light to try and get a start on the task Gluttony gave me. Just using the information from the old world, it is not easy, but maybe if I could find some reflective surface I could use it. But that would just be using science and not magic. So what would this world consider using magic? Well, easy answer is to use mana, but how could I use my mana to create light? Damn it, this could easily just turn into a philosophical debate in my head about the meaning of mana and the many uses it has. So what is light? Well, obviously it's the light from whatever star is at the center of whatever planetary system this planet was a part of. But at the same time, light could be considered what illuminates an area like a fire or a flashlight. But to create those things are all different elements used in conjunction, like to make a fire that's using burnable materials like wood, while a flashlight uses batteries which power a circuit that powers bulbs. Those thoughts did nothing to help me figure out light as an element. Wait, isn't light something that is just differing wavelengths being emitted from the sun? So what if I could interrupt those waves of light or reduce their lengths and widths? Wouldn't that be considered light magic? But if that is the case, then invisibility would be a pretty basic usage of light magic, right? Okay, so damn, this is way out of my league. Maybe I should just ask Mom. Maybe this world has a different interpretation of light that I could better use. I go to where I last saw my parents take our guest. I open my mouth to speak but instead stop as the words, "He will be my disciple in preparation for the Shadow Eater's invasion," entered my ears. What do you mean he will be your disciple? You cannot just take away my son to do with as you please. I understand that you are a master who is tasked with protecting the other weaker species, same as the dragons, but that does not give you the right to do as you please. My father almost growled the last part as his eyes had a dangerous shine to them and I could see his leg muscles flexing in anticipation for a fight. Solace, honey, please calm down. I am sure that Master Lucan is not doing this just on a whim. Please think rationally. This would mean that our son will become stronger and will have a better future. It may be painful, but think of his future. He needs to understand that to survive he will need more strength than what he can gain here. These words only sent chills down my spine. Are they talking about me? I don't want to leave this place, let alone train under some unknown person who will dictate how I train. So I rush in there. Who are you trying to take away from here? With a look of surprise on both my parents' face, I could assume they did not know I had overheard them, but the smile on the wolf's face made me think he knew I was there, almost like he sensed me there. Why, little runt, who else but you? I plan on taking you away from your highly prideful and cunning brother and teach you the strength needed to survive in this world. No, I refuse. I can handle Orem. He is just another challenge and obstacle in my path. I am doing just fine here with my parents and my brother Gaia. Little runt, I am not talking about Orem. He is a prideful dragon, yes, but he is not the one I am talking about. My worries are about the one controlling him. I believe his name is Salus, correct? He is the mastermind who is making plots in the dark against you, using Orem as an obvious front to either kill or cripple you. I was stunned at those words. Yeah, I knew Salus was a bastard and I knew he was sadistic, but it never crossed my mind that he could be a snake Oswell. How do you know he is the one? His aura is that of one who wants everything his heart desires, to the point where he will do whatever despicable thing needed. Surprisingly, looking at my parents as the master said this was a bit confusing, as it looked like they already knew this about Salus. Before I could ask anything else, my parents and the wolf start talking about something else, but my attention was stolen by a voice in my head. I know that you have the sin of gluttony, boy, that is why you will come with me. If the sins of pride and envy knew that their descendants were family with gluttony, your life would be forfeit faster than you could blink. My breath stopped in my chest as I saw the wolf staring at me from the sides of his eyes. I knew that he was the one who just spoke in my head, but how is the main question? And how did he know that I had a sin and that my brothers also had one? But that led to another question. Why did gluttony not let me know that they were present in my siblings? Was this another test from it, or is it that gluttony is not as all-powerful as I once believed? These questions swam through my head as I left the area and curled up onto my bed, and before long I fell asleep. I woke up to the smell of freshly cooked meat. I walked into our eating area to see that there was a human sitting over a fire. I jumped into survival mode and blew out a stream of smoke at the human. With a small wave of his hand, a small but powerful gust of wind cleared away my smoke. Good instinct. I can tell you have thought of a good way to overcome your physical weakness. It is smart to limit your opponent's visibility, but what are you going to do when your enemy can see through such a simple ploy and get rid of it as easily as I have? Who are you, human, and where are my parents? Where is my brother? Oh, forgive me, you know me by this form. Then the human transforms into a giant blood-red wolf. Here is this better. Now sit and eat, we have to head out soon and time is unfortunately not our ally right now. He threw some cooked meat at me which my stomach took over and forced me to devour to avoid the pain of malnourishment I get if I don't eat right away. Okay, so let's say I go with you. I have a few questions I need answered. Yes, I know you do, but first let's eat, and after your goodbyes we have to go pick up the other candidates and head to the place of your training. Without speaking I just ate more and then I left to go find my family waiting outside for us. Vexus, you lucky bastard. You get to leave and train with a master, and Master Lucan no less. Whatever, you had better not tarnish our family's prestige by dying. I was surprised to hear words like this coming from Orem. Maybe he wasn't such a bad guy after all, even if he was being used as a pawn by Salus. Good luck, elder brother, I wish you the best of luck in your training. Salus said these words, but all I could see is the cold glint of hatred and lies almost visibly radiating off his body. Gaia came up to me and after a small brotherly hug he looked at me with a slight wetness in his eyes. Brother, do you have to leave? Yes, I do. We both knew that my time here was only going to get worse, and let's face it, some dragons here would be happy if I died. I said that last part with an obvious sideways glance at Salus, especially knowing what I do now. Okay, I understand. Like I promised before, I will get strong enough to support you, brother, and when we meet again you will see just how much stronger than you I get. With a tear rolling down his rocky scaly face I smiled and patted him with my tail as I walked by. I sure hope so, Gaia, I will need all the help I can get. Standing in front of my parents for what seemed like the last time for quite a while was a bit emotional. Mom was crying big tears and Dad was holding it together somewhat well, albeit you could see him starting to crack, so before he ruined his stoic expression I quickly went over and gave him a hug. Dad, Mom, I understand it will be quite a while before we see each other again, but do not worry too much as I will be training my hardest, and I will make you both proud. Little one, you already have made us proud, now please just do your best and come back to us, you know what is at stake. So with a nod they both hugged me again and spoke to Master Lucan one last time before we both head off towards the woods following the garden stone wall towards the horizon, and with a look back towards my family that was still waving goodbye I embark on my next journey in life as a young dragon hatchling who is both a runt and an transmigrated soul. Smoke Stream LVL 02/30. March 30th. Smoke Blast LVL 0 January 10th. 2/10. Quick author's note. I needed to change up how the story was progressing, and this way I can introduce more of the characters I have in mind while also opening up an easier way for the MC to gain power. If you have problems with this, please let me know. It won't change how it happened, but I would appreciate the constructive criticism. Sincerely. The author. Chapter 16. My Rivals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It has been a week since I have left my family to get stronger in order to fight the Shadow Eaters. Each day was filled with walking and walking, which I found out was not my forte on part of not having 4 legs, but I was able to moderately keep up with an alternating gallop, sort of like how 3-legged racers would run. After a week of idle banter between me and Master Lucan, who told me that he would not answer the questions I had until he united all of the candidates together. Master, if I may, who are these candidates that you speak of? Is there a reason you need more than me? Well, Vexus, I will not sugarcoat this for you. What we are about to embark on, or rather I should say that you young ones will embark on, is very dangerous, and I will only take the survivors under my tutelage to train to protect this world. That was definitely a shock to me, as I was expecting more along the lines of he has a legacy to pass down and that the other candidates were my rivals in receiving it. But to think that he is just taking some talent and then weeding out the chaff from that said talent meant that the fight we are going to be training for is definitely more world-ending than I first thought. With those words and the thoughts of what we would be facing circling through my head, we walked in silence until we stopped on a cliff overlooking a series of huts and other similar buildings. But what I noticed was that there were what looked like lizard men with wings. I say lizard men because they were bipedal and were using tools. I could see some dragons at the bottom of the cliff disappearing into the cliff under us. They were all different colors Oswell, some were green while others were red and a few I seen were even black. Okay little runt, this is our next stop. Welcome to the village where your grandpa and your uncle live along with his wife and children, who as fate would have it is one of the other candidates. There are actually 3 candidates in this village. One is your cousin while the other 2 are said to be hybrids from a passing adventurer and his brother turned demon. That is still a mystery, but again I have only heard rumors, not anything with substance. We walk down the cliff and come upon a lizard man and a dragon guarding the entrance into the village. They are both red-scaled. The dragon had a glowing red throat as he looked at us approach, while the lizard man stepped forward with a bone spear shaft attached to a very sharp unknown metal. Halt, state your business in the Village of Pride. I am Master Lucan. Please go tell your chief I am here to take 3 of your most talented children with me to train for the upcoming Shadow Eater invasion. At the mention of his name, both the dragon and lizard man have a wave of fear wash over them. The dragon instantly takes off in the direction of the village center, and after a few minutes the dragon appears again, this time with a humongous black lizard man along with a green-scaled lizard woman dressed in shamanic dress. Hello, I am the chieftain of this village Lshin Pride, and this is my wife, the shaman of our tribal mind Pride. Welcome to our humble village. My men have told me that you plan on taking a few of your children. Is that correct, sir? Yes, it is Lshin, as I am sure you have noticed that it is nearing the time that the Shadow Eaters will emerge and wreak havoc upon the world. I, with the blessings of the other masters of the Protection Pact, will take the most talented younglings in the Dragon Tribe and perhaps a few other species and will train them to become a Shadow Eater counter-team. I see. Well, if that is the case, then I am sure you can provide proof. I see that you already roped my grandson into your group, but that was the choice of his father. However, I am the chieftain of this village, and before I allow that to happen here I need to see evidence that says the other masters are okay with this potentially dangerous tactic. Master Lucan tensed up a bit. I assume either he falsely tricked my father or he is not used to being questioned. My answer either way came at the form of Lucan gaining size, and an overpowering aura slammed me into the ground along with all the other weaker-willed lizards and dragons surrounding the area. The chief and the shaman, however, only stood there with calm looks on their faces, almost like they were looking at a child throwing a tantrum. Lucan then growled lowly and after a second finally spoke while the aura dissipated and his form became normal again. Please forgive my outburst. This form is prone to aggression. Yes, here is the proof. He waves his hand and an emblem appears in his hand, which he hands over to the chief, and with another wave an image of 3 different species appear almost like a hologram as they were sitting around a table of some kind. The chief then immediately kneels and drops the emblem onto the ground, which surprisingly shows no damage but instead enlarges the mystical hologram. Fellow masters, please forgive this abrupt and unexpected calling, but I am here with the chief of the Dragon Village Pride and he needed to be assured that what we are planning is legitimate. One of the masters that looked like a black lizard man but who was almost shimmering kind of like a shadow spoke up. It is fine, Master Lucan, I understood that this kind of thing could happen, so we are not disturbed. Chief Lshin, it is me, Master Drago. Rest assured that what Lucan is doing is acknowledged by us. Please give him your full support. With those last words the image of the masters fades away and Lucan waves his hand and the emblem disappears like it never existed. After seeing that I knew that he had something I thought was always a cool item in games and novels. It had to be a spatial item, or even better, he had the magical talent to use spatial magic. Wait, if I have the skill spatial bullet, does that mean I can learn skills related to an inventory? That thought sent my mind reeling with questions, but at the same time an overwhelming excitement started to overtake me as I began thinking up possible trainings to get those skills. My racing mind was snapped to reality by the chief standing back up and leading the way to a house that was way bigger than the surrounding buildings. This is our town's inn. I will go ahead and have a room fixed up for you both and a hot meal prepared. Go ahead and rest for today, and tomorrow I will bring you the 3 talented children I am assuming you are wanting. I need at least tonight to speak with their parents to make them see that this is something they cannot control. The chief and shaman leave after a short nod at Lucan. We enter the inn and at once the atmosphere is filled with silence as every head turns towards us. I seen dragons at a large opening towards the back like an outdoor patio area where they were being served drinks and freshly cooked meats and other foods. I turned to Lucan before finally speaking. So now that we have a place to sleep that isn't just hard ground, along with a free hot meal, I would like to sit down and discuss some things. As long as it does not include how I know of your sin and what I will be having you and the other candidates doing, I will answer to the best of my ability. With that in mind, we were directed to a table by a very cute lizard woman with shiny dark gray scales which shot me glances of pity after seeing that I was handicapped in a way, especially since even though I was a dragon I could easily fit inside of the main building and was not having to be forced out into the patio serving area with the other dragons. So I noticed that you can have things appear and disappear with a wave of your hand. Do you perhaps have a magic item? With a nonchalant wave, Lucan grabbed and dropped onto the table a small bag that was hidden on his waist. This is what is called a spatial bag. It allows me to hold a lot of different objects in a different space as long as the object is non-living and inanimate. Before you ask, no, I do not have an extra, nor do I plan on giving a dragon who has the natural element of space such an item. If you want this, you will have to learn on your own to control your magic. Well, that is a shame. And another thing, how do you know what element I can use? Is there a skill that grants you insight into my abilities? That is something you have to find out for yourself. Until you pass the upcoming trials, I will not help you nor provide anything I deem as such. Well, fine, I guess that will be the end of my questions, for now anyway. I will just eat and I plan on going to rest in the room. I am going to take full advantage of being this small, since for now is has given me the chance of laying in an actual bed again. Lucan and I finished eating and went up to the room, and upon entry I was very surprised by the amount of luxury that was given to us. There were actual beds covered with all manners of leather coverings that gave enough of a layer to provide a decent amount of comfort. There were also a separate and private bathroom. Of course, since this world is, I am assuming, still within the medieval ages, it was only a hole cut into the wooden flooring while a huge hole was dug into the ground. It was at least a step in the right direction, but still lacking from the comforts of my old life, which I miss a lot. However, after laying down on the bed, the stress of being on the road for a week and all the stress of being on the lookout for monsters seemed to crash down on me all at once as I drift off to a very deep sleep. Next I am in front of Gluttony, but this time the gaseous cloud was a bit thinner than usual and seemed to have shrunken in size. Great Elder, what happened? Why do I get the sense that you are not as powerful as you were before? Descendant, you must be careful. My brother Pride and sister Envy have learned that I granted my sin onto a sibling of their chosen. I was cornered and beaten for days on end until they grew tired. What you see is as much power as I can muster for now until I can recover. They are now on the lookout for you. They have a truce for now and are sharing the control of this plane with the other sins, but I was forbidden from establishing in this world. They wanted to limit my power and eventually share in devouring my power and gaining it for themselves, but I found out about their plot, and around that time I found you. Like I said, you have to be careful, young one. I have to go now. I am currently in hiding and must limit how much energy I use. There was a flash of light and I was left in a void of darkness before I felt a strong shake of my physical body and my subconscious faded out and my consciousness took over. I jerk awake to see a blue-scaled lizard man with 2 black horns emerging from his forehead, who was standing just over me with his hands still on my shoulders. I also noticed that a smaller human was standing slightly to the side, but after blinking away the grogginess I could see that it was a female and that she had black scales covering portions of her body, and she also had wings and a blue-scaled tail slowly waving from left to right. Hey, you're the new dragon around here. My name is Desmoros, and this is my cousin Lizaria. Chapter 17. The 2 hybrids. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I was still in a state of shock to be woken up in such a way, but after realizing that I was in front of 2 very odd-looking people, I was simply just stunned at how different they were from the others around me. But in my amazement I guessed Desmoros was talking to me, so with a small smile I finally spoke up. Oh, sorry, I was distracted at how different you are from the other lizard men and dragons around here. Are you perhaps the offspring of the two adventurers that had visited here? With a bright smile Lizaria spoke up in the cutest voice I ever heard, almost like how a timid girl would speak when she is trying to force herself out of her shell. Yes, my father is a human adventurer named Joey who wields terrifying magic of all kinds, while my mother is a blue scale overseeing magical training for the young ones of the tribe. With a happy smile on his face Desmorose mimicked Lizaria's tone. My father is a human blah 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 ha 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 ha. Listen here, my father is a demon, more specifically a demon of pride named Hunter, and my mother. Well, she is a leading red scale in the guard who patrols and keeps this town safe. Quit mocking me, cousin, or I will tell Auntie Calesia that you are being mean again. A look of terror washes over his face. Hey listen, I was just playing, there's no need for such harsh measures. It seems that Elizaria isn't as timid as I first thought. If these two are to be my rivals/companions, then this could get very interesting. I stepped in to sort of be a buffer since Desmorose was in a fight for his life against Lizaria's cunning. Excuse me, I assume that you had heard that me and Master Lucan were here to get you as well as one other and then set off to train for the upcoming Shadow Eater invasion, right? Yeah, that's right, our parents agreed. We even used the magic tool that Uncle Joey made to contact them to make sure it was in the best interest, since they are technically the saviors of our village and the main reason you see so many dragons around here. Yeah, my dad made an amazing magical item using his knowledge of not only magic but also enchanting and formations. Hold on. What do you mean formations, and what is enchanting exactly? The two hybrids looked at each other before turning back to me. Well, first, enchanting is the act of, well, simply put, just infusing magic into items, but it depends on the material which magic works the best. For example, a piece of wood with a fire enchantment is perfect for an instant fire, but with water it becomes useless and soggy. That is the basic enchanting metaphor that my uncle told me. Now, formations is the art of drawing specific runes and using certain types of material to create a semi-permanent barrier, or it can be used to create very deadly traps, or it can even summon monsters with their own will. Granted, for those types of formations there is a constant drain on the materials used, but you get the idea of just how powerful formations can be. With Desmorose giving me that brief description of what they were, I was in amazement yet again. To think that not only is there magic in this world, but people have even gone so far in advancement as figuring out how to infuse that magic into objects and to create formations. The possibilities were endless already. Now to add in two other avenues of usage and my brain was close to overloading. But Desmorose is pretty useless when it comes to enchanting objects with anything other than demon magic, which grants tremendous strength but at the cost of the user's life. If I or any other person with healing powers were not around, who knows how long he would have lasted using the first weapon he made. Lizaria snickered at the thoughts of seeing him coming home with cuts and bruises from fighting monsters, only to fall face first into a pile of dung because his weapon drew too much life from him during the fight. Desmorose had a scowl on his face as he knew what she was thinking of, so with a huff he got up and looked back at me. Listen, today is the day we are going to set out with you. We are getting our friend Stony, who is an earth dragon, and the third of us to get picked from here. Get some rest and we will see each other tomorrow. They both left, and with a big smile on my face I drifted back to sleep to dream of the fantastical things that I had now had the ideas to make. The next morning came and went as the village woke up and set about their chores. You could see the dragons setting off towards the forest to hunt for the village's food, along with lizard riders, lizard men with axes cutting down the nearby trees for lumber, some cooking bread and other foods that filled the air with a scent almost like that of a bakery, and some were coming out of huts dressed in full armor heading towards a building situated along the walls of the village. After we had breakfast, me and Master Lucan set off towards the chief's hut centered in the village, and upon arrival we see three families, and I saw Desmorose and Lizaria, each with a woman with them, but the women looked to be much stronger, almost rivaling the aura being exuded from the shaman of the tribe. The third family, however, was two red lizard people, but the woman was huge compared to the man, and then there was a dragon that was sitting patiently between them, talking in excitement, judging from the dramatic waving of the father's hands and the mother's tail whipping back and forth. The chief walks up to us and with a smile greets Master Lucan with a handshake as he is in his human form since we are in town and not in the wilderness. Good morning Lucan, Vexus, I hope that the inn was to your liking. Yes, it was, thank you very much for the accommodations, we slept very well with little disturbance. At that Lucan shot the two siblings a look blatantly showing that he was awake for our late night chat. Good, well here are the three most talented younglings of our village. First we have Desmorose and his mother, Calesia. His father's name is Hunter, he was an adventuring demon who came and helped make the village what it is today. Next we have Lizaria and her mother, Himine. Her father is a human named Joey and who is also the brother of Hunter. Then last we have Stony and his parents Silas and Hesity. Silas is actually my other son, which makes him your uncle Vexus, and Stony your cousin. Great, now that we are all here, please pack up a few belongings so we can head to our next destination as soon as possible. Master Lucan said with a hint of annoyance at the useless details he was given. We need to get to our training location deep in the forest before the next full moon, which is only a few days away. Parents, please make sure to give your child as much luck as you can spare, as they will need it for the upcoming tests. And with that he walks back to the tavern without so much as a glance at the chief or the others. The others had a look of being offended at the obvious rudeness of this human. All they knew was that the chief had said their children were going away to train for the upcoming Shadow Eaters invasion, but they were not given the information that the human who was to be in charge of the training is in fact one of the masters in charge of protecting against said menace. Thankfully, before any thoughts could be voiced, the chief handled everything with ease as he made sure that everyone went back and had one final meal together before the younglings were to head out. I decided just to head back to the inn and have lunch. I decided that this time I was going to go out onto the patio dragon serving area and see if maybe I could strike up a conversation with any other dragons in the hope that I could pick up some hints at developing my light magic. I was seated and after a little bit I got my food, which was a big slab of what I could only guess was pork because of the bacon scent wafting from it. My mouth drooled at the smell of bacon and I shoveled it into my mouth as fast as I could, and I was happy that ding had popped up. DNA of earthen boar consumed. Assimilate Y/N. Skills available. 2. Earthen charge. After covering body with earth, charges at enemy. Vitality of the boar. Assimilation of a magical boar species will grant a significant increase in user's well-being. Disappointed at the low number of choices was soon dwarfed by the gratitude I felt towards this inn for giving me such a great boost. Without further thought I chose Vitality of the Boar, and almost instantly I could feel a great rush in my body and containing my excitement until I got back to my room. I instantly checked my status to see the difference this one skill had. What the hell does it mean, due to weakened state? I thought that I had grown stronger. Granted, I am not up to standard for a normal youngling, but still I gained quite a bit from being the runt until now. Unable to do anything about it, I just accept it and focus on my magic. Shit, I completely forgot the main reason I went to eat outside with the other dragons. So I trudged back down, and after a little bit I just decided to start asking some of the waitresses. Excuse me ma'am, but is there anybody who can use light magic in the village? She stops and thinks for a minute before slowly shaking her head. I'm sorry sir, but the only magic I normally see is what the cooks do to prepare the food. They use mostly fire and water magic, but I am sure that if you go to the school there could be someone there who can help you. After asking for directions and thanking her, I walked towards the school that I told was being used by Lizaria's mother Oswell as the shamaness to teach the younger generations how to use and control different elements, as well as basic enchanting and formations that were passed down from the saviors aka Desmorose and Lizaria's fathers. I walk up, and after a few minutes of watching some young dragons breathing different elements and some blue and green scaled lizards creating different balls or arrows of the elements, I finally get lucky and see that the teacher was creating a small ball of light as to showcase the correct form. I continue to watch until the end of the class. Unfortunately, I did not learn anything from the teaching as nothing new to me was being shown, but afterwards I walked up to the teacher. Hello teacher, my name is Vexus. I came to this village with Master Lucan, but before we leave I was hoping to get some help in learning to use light magic. Ah, little Vexus, I was told by Lizaria that she sensed magical potential in you. I'm her mother Himine. I can show you, but first, are you okay with a small test to gauge your natural elements? It will help me better teach, and should you ever come back for more tips. She then brings out a small crystal orb that was as clear as glass. After agreeing, she tells me to place my hand onto the orb, but after realizing what she said, she looked embarrassed and instead had me place my tail against it. Now this will be a bit more difficult, as you will need to focus your mana through your tail and into the orb. Before she could say anything else, the orb lights up, which gives her a shock, which then makes me break out into a wry smile. Miss, I am surprisingly good at manipulating mana. It is the act of turning said mana into the elements that I am having trouble with. Well, first off, I don't believe that, because right now the orb is showing a major source of space element within your mana, but I also see different minority sources of the other elements. Oh the gods, you even have a minor source of darkness within you. Thank you, you can let go of the orb now. But as for you learning light magic, it is only a matter of using your mana to essentially take control of the surrounding light. I know it is a difficult concept to master, but just imagine that the light is a tangible, physical thing that can be grabbed, and using mana as a sort of net, capture the light, and then you can mold it from there into what you want. Since it is one of the more major elements besides the three primal elements, it has different rules that it follows. I have to leave now and head home to see Lazaria off, but I hope this has helped you. Farewell. I was a bit confused, but after working my brain and sifting through what she said, I thankfully got a ding. Due to teachings from a light magic user's own contemplation of light magic has increased by 15%. Further training required to unlock element. Well, that is somewhat helpful. I don't understand why I could almost use wine magic a week ago, but to use light magic I had to have at least a basic understanding of it. Well, Himine did say that light magic as a major element had different rules to be used, so maybe this is one of them. Not putting too much thought into this for now, as I hear Master Lucan send a message to my mind. Vexus, meet me at the entrance of the village, it is time to go. Recalling how annoyed Master was at useless details and even making sure that people knew he was, I could only assume that he got tired of waiting around, and after seeing him I could see that Desmoros, Lazaria, and Stony were all ready and waiting, and after a few final words to their parents we were off towards our future training ground. Vexus Variant Earth Dragon Youngling STR 3 Vit 4.5 SPD 4.5 Dex 1 Con 3.5 Int 1 Health 120/320 with usage of Vitality of the Boar, MP 30, Stamina 140, 340 with usage of Vitality of the Boar. New Vitality of the Boar, LVL 00/10. Assimilation of a magical boar species will grant a significant increase in users' well-being. Alert: due to users' weakened state, the skill has been turned into an active use skill. At the cost of being passive, gains the potential of becoming a stronger skill. New Light Magic Comprehension, 15%. User has comprehended a small part of the use of the element of light. 100% will grant full unlock of light magic. Update: so there is a difference to the way it looks on my phone versus while I am working on it on my laptop. My laptop shows the spaces in between the paragraphs, but on my phone it's all a jumbled mess. If this is what you see, Oswell, I am so sorry. Please let me know so that I can figure out a way to fix this. Chapter 18. Road Less Traveled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the 5 of us on the road, I figured out something. Where have all the monsters and creatures gone? I always wondered what happened, but after a bit of traveling, Lazaria perked up and asked, Master Lucan, why is it that there are no monsters or creatures attacking us as we travel? I have done short expeditions into the land around my village, but it was always at the side of my aunt and mother. He laughs and says, about time I was asked that question. Vexus, did you not wonder about that, or were you too busy trying to explain it inside your head first? Being called out like that was a bit startling at first, but with an embarrassing nod I agree before speaking. Yes, Master, I was trying to come up with the answer on my own. I will admit I was a bit hesitant to ask you for fear of reprimand for not thinking for myself. Ah, I understand, my boy. Seeing as how you are essentially an outcast from your siblings, I can see how your mind has grown to rely on itself. But Vexus, you must learn to also rely on the help of others, even willing to trust others should such a person enter your life. He spoke such affirming words like it was breathing, but it did speak to me and make me rethink a couple things. Also, back to the main question, my dear, it is because of me that weaklings surrounding us have not tried to attack us. I am able to send out my aura at a distance to ward them off so as to make our travel quicker. It would be good experience for you younglings, but with the training I am going to put you through, these measly souls will do nothing compared. Lizaria, Desmorose, and even Stony seemed to pale at that remark, before Desmorose regained his composure. Sir Lucan. Boy, it is Master Lucan. Until you die or become as strong as me, I will always be addressed as Master, do you understand? Yes, sir. I mean Master Lucan. The monsters around here are in the second rank of their evolutions, even my father had trouble with a peak second form monster on the cusp of entering third rank. How could that be called weak? He may not have used his dragon form, but he had trouble nonetheless. Yes, these monsters may be strong to the power level that you are at now, but who said that these are the strongest monsters around the world? Did you think that your just now evolving bloodline within the last generation could compare to some of the horrors that threaten this world? Ask Vexus how powerful the Shadow Eater was that he and his father killed. He lost a leg in that fight, and his father lost many of his almost indestructible scales, and that one was just a low-leveled Shadow Eater. It had not fully formed its powers. I bet that Vexus was supposed to be its first meal of life, to put it bluntly. Now that was a mind-blower. If I ever heard one, I could see from the faces of the others that they had not heard of this either. Then almost like a spotlight was flashed onto me, all four of their heads turned towards me. What are those looks for? What did I do? Shaking his head, Master Lucan continued walking with us in silence, following behind. I felt the occasional glance from the others, but I could feel Lizaria and Desmoro's stares last a little longer, until finally Master Lucan stopped in a clearing. This will be our campsite for the night. I have decided to lower my aura. I sense a valuable training partner in the vicinity, and the lowering of the aura around us will no doubt bring its attention to us. After hearing that he changed his mind on having us train, I start to think up plans in advance. Mostly they revolved around me using my smoke blast, since it is the only skill that would not cover up everybody's visibility of the creature. But thinking of something, I figured that instead of that, maybe if I knew what direction it was coming from, maybe I could set up traps to weaken it. So with that thought in mind, I go up to the others. Hey, I have an idea. Would you be up for strategizing? Are you kidding? If it's a creature Master Lucan considers training, then we will need all the help we can get. Desmorose being the first to speak up. Yes, exactly, I agree. I was thinking of asking you to strategize with us, considering that Master himself said that you like to think things through. With a cute voice, Lizaria asked me that. It took all I had to focus on what she was saying. Stony then came up to us and stated. Listen, I may not be as talented as the rest of you, but if you are my cousin, then I believe you hold great power, so I will listen to what you have to say. Hearing them say that was a little heart-warming for me, as since coming here nobody except maybe Gaia has listened to me when I was talking, but being here in this situation could be a factor in it also because of Master Lucan with his big mouth. They now know that I am an overthinker. But that could be an advantage if used correctly. Okay, so what I was thinking was that I use my ability to detect my surrounding to see what direction it would be coming from, then using Stony's earth magic we can create pitfall traps to either capture it for easy elimination, or if it has intelligence we can use the pitfall traps to create an opening that we can control. That sounds like a good plan, but what if it decides to just jump over all the traps, or it can easily escape them? If it can do that, which there is a good chance of that happening, then we rely on Lizaria's hex magic. I'm assuming you have some kind of speed-reducing hex, correct? Or maybe a poison. Yes, I have both of them, but they take a while to use. But the main thing is that my level of mastery still requires a catalyst to use. The greater connection to the target, the better. Shit, okay, we can still use that. If me or Desmorose are able to get anything off its body, you take it, then start your cast, okay? In the meantime, if but mostly when it escapes the traps, Stony, you will be in charge of hindering its movements any way you can, either by creating earthen walls or even just turning the ground soft. Speed will be essential in surviving this, which leads me to you, Desmorose. What can you provide? I know you have demon magic, but what is that exactly? Well, it is demonic obviously, but it is mostly in the form of gaining one thing at the expense of another, like say you wanted to be faster, well, what would you be giving up for that increase in speed? Even at higher levels the rules mostly stay the same. It requires one sacrifice to gain something else. However, I am capable of using unholy magic. It isn't on the same level as necromancy, but I can cast short burst of mind distorting magic, and if it is of the holy element I can do increased damage with my rotting blast attack. Okay, that would help as a last resort. If it comes to it, cast that on me and give me strength in exchange for my intelligence. I have a skill called Rage that will do the same thing, so adding those together will give me a big boost, but only after Lazaria can slow it down and weaken it. Now prepare. I do not know if it will notice my detection or not, or if it is even within my range. After they split up to either help with starting the traps or just conserving their energy, I climb up a tree as high as I can go to help give my skill the added range and cast detection. Shortly after I can feel the mana leave my body and start to sweep in a wide radius around me. In my mind I can see my companions working or resting. I can see Master Lucan staring at me smiling. Then as my mana reaches the wood line I can start to see flashing images of creatures, small lizards running around or hairy beasts on four legs eating various prey, all this and more until at the very end, before my mana started to recede back to me, I caught the glimpse of a big four-legged creature at the mouth of a cave staring in my direction. I open my eyes and shout. "It noticed Get!" Before I could finish a loud roar echoed across the forest, and soon after I could hear wood breaking in the distance get her closer and closer. Looking down I could see that Stony was creating pitfall traps in every direction, but I could see that the majority of the traps was placed in the direction of the roar and the loud breaking sounds. Good job, even without my direction he assumed the right direction. We need to prepare now. It is four-legged and has a massive body. Even before my skill reached it, it was already looking in our direction, likely like what Master Lucan said. It noticed his aura being taken down, but because I tried to detect it I angered it. It will be here soon. Lazaria, get read with a fire spell. It does not matter how powerful it is. Desmoros, be prepared to cast your unholy spell. Stony, I want a double-layered wall right in front of its path. If we are lucky it is running too fast in anger to properly dodge the sudden walls. They all nod as the sounds get closer and closer. I can see the fear in their eyes, but I was happy that they did not cower from it. I got ready with a smoke blast to disorient it. Hopefully the blast will not shoot me back too far this time, but also disrupt and hopefully damage the creature at the same time. As the walls erect and I can see a red glow come from Lazaria's hands and a slightly sickly greenish glow come from Desmoros' hands, I hear a loud bang come from the walls. I was right that the monster was enraged and not thinking clearly, and had instead chosen to bash through the walls, and before us was a large wolf-like creature, except this had bright yellow fur and every so often I could see sparks fly from its fur. It shook its head a few times before finally setting its eyes onto mine. I could see that it was looking solely at me. I guess me using detection somehow was seen as a challenge to this monster and it came running to accept. Well, I will not back down, and instead I will use this monster to grow stronger. With that thought in mind I started to drool at the thought of eating it, and so I run at the creature and scream. Fire, and shoot out a smoke blast. Detection. 20% smoke blast. 2. March 10th. Chapter 19. New opponent, new powers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The smoke blast nears the creature, but right before it makes contact I seen a flash of electricity, and the electric wolf seemed to phase through my attack, and also the giant stone thrown by Stony and the fire spell from Lazaria, which was just a cone-shaped flamethrower attack, but luckily the unholy attack from Desmoros seemed to hit it even when it phased through the others. It seemed to be shocked at this and quickly turned on Desmoros to attack. I used this as an opportunity to use a skill long forgotten. I run up behind the creature while it was distracted and use Shadow Strike. My body rushes forward and with my claws I rake across its back, creating 4 long deep gashes with a spray of blood following. It roars and swings around with a paw and slams it into my side. I can feel the blood start oozing from my side as a new notification pops up, 0.30 HP. Holy shit, that's 1/4 my HP. You mean to tell me that this creature can dish out that much damage with just a backswing? What kind of power can it hold when using its full power? The thought sent a shiver up my spine, but I knew that if I started to cower now it would truly be the end. Thankfully at that time I saw Lizaria bend down and place her hand on the ground. When she lifted it back up there was a red spot in the center of her palm. She started to glow a almost imperceptible aura that I could faintly see but only just. Then I could see a line spring from her to the wolf centering on its back right in the middle of one of my scratches. The wolf looked around in confusion before suddenly it lurched awkwardly and began to whine and started coughing and hacking up a blackish liquid. I knew that she had been successful in poisoning it with her hex magic. With a look from her and a nod I turned back to the other two. Now before it recovers, then the three of us pounced at once and with a sickly green glow a punch was landed directly on its snout, a rock-covered head was slammed into its side, and a blue of darkness and smoke appeared from above and slashed even deeper into its spine. In the end it posed no threat to the four of us, having only one injury at my expense. As it slowly eyed us and I could see the light fading while its eyes glossed over, my mind hazed and a notification was heard but not seen as I leapt onto the dying body and proceeded to rip and tear into its flesh, gorging myself while under the control of my hunger that until recently has been sufficiently handled. But the sight of this powerful wolf that had even hurt me during the battle created a desire within me to devour it and recover as well as gain its power. While eating I could hear multiple dings go off but I just could not be bothered with finding out what they were. However, I was thrown back with a blast of energy and slammed into a wall with a hand around my throat, and while I was still chewing on a piece of meat the haze slowly started to dissipate from my mind. I was now staring into the glowing red eyes of Master Lucan, who was emanating a deadly murderous aura. With a calm, but frightening tone he asked me slowly. "What do you think you are doing, Vexus?" Not knowing what had happened I look around to see that Stony was on the ground bleeding from a large chunk missing from his arm while Lizaria was bandaging it and Desmoros was standing in between me and them. I looked around some more in confusion and my eyes landed on a half-eaten corpse of the wolf creature. Looking back at Master with a look of confusion I asked. "What happened, Master? Vexus, do you not know what you just did? After you four killed the monster you became ravenous and started eating the corpse. Stony tried to stop you as it looked like you wanted to devour it all, but you turned on him and tore a chunk straight out of his arm. I was forced to take action. Now tell me what happened to you." I myself was asking that very same question. What did happen to me? I remember the moment we killed it, but as my eyes caught onto the life fading from its body it seemed like my whole body lost control. Looking back up at Master I said the only thing that I could say at that moment. "Master, I do not know what happened to me. As I looked into its dying eyes my body just took control. I felt an immense hunger and my instincts screamed at me to eat that monster." He stared at me for a while. I could see different emotions flash in his eyes and facial features. First was a look of anger, then a look of worry, a look of disgust shortly after, but then settling a look of pity. He let me go before turning around and while walking back he said words that scared me. "Vexus, what you just experienced was your sin gaining control over you. You are not strong enough to withstand it. But I will give you a day to reconcile with the others before we move on. You will have to train harder, as even though you are a danger to the rest of us we still need you in the fight that is to come." With that he walked away and laid down into a makeshift lean-to that I had not noticed until now. I looked towards the others with remorse in my eyes. "I am so sorry, Stony, please forgive me. I didn't know that I could lose control over this thing inside me." I took a step forward only to be stopped by Desmoros stepping in front of me and I could see the other two backing away. "Vexus, you need to stay away from us. I can understand the power that a sin holds over a person, but what you did was still terrifying. If Master Lucan had not stepped in to stop you, you very well could have started eating Stony. If he had not stepped in I would have, and I would have done so with deadly intent." Looking at his eyes I could tell he was serious. He had a slight twinge of fear, but otherwise I could see the resolve that he held. So I backed away and turned to leave, but was stopped by Master Lucan. "Boy, you have not been permitted to leave. You will stay within this campground and face your actions. I suggest, however, that you pick an outlying position just close enough to the heat of the fire I built but far enough away to give the others peace of mind. I will also give you the responsibility of watching over the surroundings. I will be watching you. With nowhere to run and think to myself, I just sit down where I walk to facing away from the others in shame. Why did I lose control like that? I will need to consult my ancestor about this. But it had not given me a way to contact it other than when it needed to give me a new task or when my life was on the line. Thinking about what I could do, my mind wandered back on the interactions, and then a light bulb went off as the memory of the excruciating pain of having the seal of gluttony tattooed onto my soul. Maybe if I focus on that seal I can get a hold and speak with my sin. I close my eyes and focus on imagining my body as a whole. Within a few minutes I could envision my body, and there on my shoulder was the gluttony seal. I then focused on sending mana towards the seal. I smiled as I could see the seal starting to fill up with my power, and at its peak my mental body shone brightly and turned into a green gas. Descendant, I am overjoyed at you figuring out how to summon me. However, your summons came at the worst possible time. I am currently defending against small onslaught of envy's minions. They have found where I concealed my body in this world. When I am finished I will contact you again. As a gift for learning to use the seal I will grant you a resistance to my power. I already felt the power gain control over you, even if it was for an instance. Goodbye, descendant, and remember to train hard. With that I could feel it leave my mind, and with a sigh I open up my status to see what it gave me in detail, only to be surprised by the notifications that bombarded me. Due to extreme hunger the user will now devour the nearest available food source. Due to outside interruptions the user has regained control. The DNA of the Lightning Wolf Omega is being digested. Alert, user is currently not in control. Commencing auto-assimilation. Lightning resistance. Able to withstand lightning elemental attacks. Lightning muscles. Using small bursts of electric, the user is capable of enhancing muscle power by a percentage based on skill level. Alert, skill will cause debuff upon ending. Pack mentality. The user will connect with others they trust to form a strong bond that increases teamwork, as well as small buff to stats dependent on skill level. Static hide. The user will now emit small bursts of static electricity over their bodies to provide defensive properties. Alert, the user has devoured and assimilated a vital organ, heart, of the Lightning Wolf Omega. User will undergo transformation upon accepting. OHSHIT is all that went through my mind as a loud roar of pain escaped from my throat and echoed across the forest. My body started to convulse and spasm as I could feel my bones contort and break before reforming into new shapes. I could feel my nub and the shoulder attached to it start to break and reform into longer bones with newly formed connective tissue that screamed as the nerves were forcefully grown. I felt my scales lengthen and widen to cover more of my body before small hairs started to sprout in between the spaces. Then the hairs started to combine and harden, creating spike-like growths, with small barely visible sparks flashing between them. After what felt like years of pain finally ended and I find out that I had not passed out, instead I had clamped my eyes shut and was grinding my teeth trying to withstand the pain. I opened my eyes with heavy breaths to see the others crowded around me with eyes wide and mouths agape. I couldn't speak, so all I could do was just watch as they stared at my transformed body. Everybody, this is the power of a sin. Look closely at the changes that took place. The sin Vexus holds is of gluttony. His soul has been sealed by the original sin and in return has gained the power to grow stronger with every opponent eaten. This is why he lost control, but due to him losing control he has gained an even greater power. The others all nod, unable to refute the power that was shown to them. The fear that radiated off of them was apparent as I could tell they were thinking the same thing. Is that going to happen to me if I gain enough power? I finally caught my breath and closed my eyes since I was too drained to do anything before sleep overtook me. Lucan's POV. BDNVL.M. Master, is this truly the power of sin? Yes, Master, if this is the power of his sin, then what about ours? Stony, Desmoros, do you really want me to tell you what to expect, or do you want to figure it out for yourselves? They first looked at each other, then with a nod and with a look of confidence and resolve they turn at the same time and bow while shouting. Master, please enlighten us. A look of humor washes across my face at these two boys. It appears that even though they are afraid of what happened with Vexus, it looks like the power his sin shown has enticed these two boys. I look over at Lizaria. Dear, do you want me to tell you about your sin? I can see the hesitation in her eyes. I think she already knows what she was born with. Hell, anybody can see it plainly just from judging her looks. If I was 200 years younger I would have the same rousing feelings that I could feel Vexus had seeing her that night at the inn. Master, I am okay, but thank you, I know what I have. Good girl, as expected. She is smart for her age, and even though she was born to the sin of lust she is optimistic about the future. It radiates from her very being, but I can see the spikes in her aura as she gets closer and closer to Vexus. Something about that boy seems to agitate the sins within the others, but at the same time it seems to leech their powers, consuming them for itself. Very well, listen up, Stony, you have the sin of sloth. You will find it harder and harder to do things, from extreme tasks to even the simplest, but if you train hard enough and gain intelligence, this setback could be turned into a great advantage. It is up to you to decide how best to use this knowledge. And Desmoros, you have gained your father's sin. He may have been cursed with it, but you have gained it naturally through birth. It is the sin of pride. With all things you will value your pride above all else, but what you decide to take pride in is up to you. Will that pride reside solely on yourself, or will your pride be based on protecting your family? That again is up to you. Pain tolerance. 1050, Shadow Strike. 2 out of 10 Devour, April 10th. 5/10 Assimilation, 3/10. 4 out of 10 New, Lightning Resistance, 0%. Able to withstand lightning elemental attacks. New, Lightning Muscles, 0 out of 10. Using small bursts of electric, the user is capable of enhancing muscle power by a percentage based on skill level. Alert, skill will cause debuff upon ending. New, Pack Mentality, 0%. The user will connect with others they trust to form a strong bond that increases teamwork, as well as small buff to stats dependent on skill level. New, Static Hide, 0 out of 10. The user will now emit small bursts of static electricity over their bodies to provide defensive properties. Chapter 20. New Body, New Powers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I woke up with a jump. The last thing I remembered was me going through the new notifications, but as soon as my eyes landed on that last message. Something about eating a vital organ. Does that mean that eating something like the heart or brain grants me a better chance of gaining stronger abilities? These are the kind of questions that were going through my brain. However, the only way to figure that out was to conduct an experiment. You finally wake up, Vexus. How do you feel? I look up to see Master Lucan walking towards me. Yeah, I guess, but I feel a little weird. I feel odd. I feel like I'm being weighed down, but at the same time light, and I feel a jolt of energy is rushing through me. Look at your body, I think you'll be surprised. Listening to him I stare down, but I instantly freeze because under me was an unfamiliar leg, but the thing that shocked me even more was that there was not one leg but two. How the hell did this happen? Is this the result of eating that heart? No, I can feel that the reason wasn't because of the heart solely, it was because of my skill. It not only gave me all of the abilities, but it also forced my body to transform. I could see now that my body as a whole had changed. I was extremely happy. I was overjoyed at what happened. I couldn't believe that I was able to regrow my leg. I started jumping up and down to make sure this wasn't a dream. With me having a mini freak out, I guess had woke up the others. I looked over to them with a smile on my face, but I quickly stopped as I remembered what happened last night. Oswell. I look over to Stony, and with a solemn face I bow down, and with a tone as sincerely as I can make it. Stony, I can never forgive myself for what I did to you. I may have been under the control of my sin, but that does not excuse me from what I did to you. I can only ask for your forgiveness and strive to do better in the future. He had a look of anger in his eyes mixed with pain. Long had the thoughts of fear left. You are a monster Vexus. Yes, we may all have a sin within us, but at the start of us celebrating defeating something that was that dangerous with minimal damage taken, you go ahead completely change and not only start to devour what should have been divided between us all and then have the nerve to attack me. Did you gain any new powers when you ate my flesh? Huh, Vexus, did you gain power from attacking your companion like some savage beast? Stony, his sin has awakened where yours has not. He may not have been able to control himself, but he still bowed down to you and asked for forgiveness. He was born into this world with his sin awakened. Yes, his sin was weakened and restrained up until recently. He nonetheless had a awakened sin that from day one attempted to shape and take over his mind. You must realize that he has come a long way. He told you himself that he lost his leg fighting with his father against the very thing I am training you to fight against. Remember that out of the four of you Vexus is the one with the most experience in fatal fights, whereas you three had protection and a safe environment to hunt in. He was forced into fights that could have cost his life. All I could do was stare up at Master as he said those things. My heart shook and my eyes started to water at the thought that I was actually being defended by someone. My parents might have done it back home while I was unconscious, or maybe even Gaia, but to be here in the moment while it happened was something I thought would never happen. I got up and without a word I activated my new skill, lightning muscle, and with a surge of static electricity zapping my legs I bolted into the forest surrounding us, leaving the others behind. Vexus Wa. I heard a shout, but I was too focused on leaving to hear clearly. I ran and ran until my lungs burned, then the feeling of being shocked left, and without warning my body received a massive shock that stopped me in my tracks. What the hell is this? I think, in between gritting my teeth trying to resist the pain and struggling to breath. Warning, user has overused a low-level ability that inflicts a debuff upon usage. User will now be inflicted with a paralysis. Time until paralysis over, 2.00 minutes 1.59 1.58. The timer counted down as the only light at the end of this shockingly painful tunnel. I just grit my teeth and bore the pain until finally I could feel the shocks lessening more and more until only a few twitches were left. I laid there on the ground until the shakes and twitches got easier to handle. Then I finally started to look at my surroundings, only to find that I was underneath a wooden covering spanning from a few trees. It looked like what the survivalists of my old world would do. It looked like a makeshift shelter. Hello, little dragon. Glad you woke up. I jumped up but immediately regretted it as my muscles were still sore. I grunted but acted tough nonetheless to not show weakness in front of whoever or whatever this was. Who are you? Where am I? I heard laughing from the mysterious being. Little one, you were the one who charged into my camp. I was sleeping rather peacefully until I was rudely awakened by a young thunder dragon zapping me awake. But now that I got a good look at you, I can see that you're not a thunder dragon. So that begs the question. At this I felt a presence close in on me as out of a shadow near me a huge bulking man walked out like it was a door and leaned it. What are you, little one? I could feel an intense aura bombard me from this human, so I jumped back and shot out my reliable smoke blast, only to see in fear as the human simply held up his hand to swat away my most powerful skill like it was a fly. Please, little one, don't be frightened. I am not here to harm you. Just think of me as an overly curious friend who is trying to figure out just what you're made of. I do not like the way you said that. Whatever you are, I have heard enough stories to get the sense that you are not a human, contrary to what you appear to be. I am going to leave now. I start to leave and was able to get at least 20 feet away from the creepy shadow using human-like creature. Before I could take another step, an overwhelming pressure forced me to the ground and held me down like chains. Oh ho ho ho, my apologies, young one. I have a bad habit of leading people on only to destroy their hopes. But lucky for you, I only want to study you. I ate recently and have no need to make a young dragon my meal. So it would be in your best interest to just be a good little dragon and assist me in my studies. Closing in on my face, I could see its head start to enlarge, and the closer it got the wider and longer its mouth would get as sharp yellow teeth sprouted from its mouth as a sickening wave of decay and death wash over me as its mouth opened to reveal skeletal limbs and half-decayed remains stuck between its teeth. All I could do was shiver in fear, and after seeing that I start to scream until my throat goes hoarse. Help me, Master Lucan, please come save me. Over and over I would scream, but after a while no words would come out as the creature waves its hand and all around us everything goes completely silent. Not even the wildlife like birds or insects dared to make a sound. Little one, TSK, I assure you that is a waste of your time. I can not only control the shadows as you observed, but as a matter of fact I can control the entire space around the area which I reside. Since you have no willingness to help me, I will just have to use other, rather forceful, methods of persuasion. My eyes could only widen with fear at the thought of what this monster could do to make me cooperate. Vexus, this is Lucan. Where are you? I can sense you near me, but something is blocking me from coming any closer. My heart started pumping as I heard my master's voice sound off in my head. Master, please save me. There is some kind of monster who says that he can control the space around me and said that he will do whatever it takes to study me. Damn it, I knew we were too close to his territory, but I thought he would be in hibernation. Listen to me, Vexus, buy as much time as you can, do whatever you need to buy me enough time to break through and rescue you. What you see before you is one of the progenitors of the Shadow Eaters. He has the same insatiable hunger as the others, but as one of the firsts he is able to maintain his sanity. To a certain extent. My once beating heart that was starting to fill with hope instantly froze after being told the true identity of what had captured me. Master, please hurry, his power is too much to handle, I can't defend against this. But the words didn't get through as I felt the connection was cut before I even spoke. I then looked up at the creature who just sat there and stared back. Did you have a nice conversation with that human who imagines himself a wolf? I do not understand what you're saying. I wasn't talking to anyone, there's only me and you here, and I didn't open my mouth once. Listen here, you little bastard, do not think for a single second that I cannot feel that little boy outside my barrier right now trying to break in and save his precious little apprentice. I have lived for far longer than your oldest ancestor. I am responsible for the creation of the greatest plague to ever wash over this world. With each word I could feel the oppressive aura getting stronger and stronger until the ground started to crack under me. I started to groan under the weight of the invisible force until I got to a point where I heard loud cracks and an unimaginable pain flashed across my body as my legs give in to the pressure and break. I started screaming without control, not being able to handle the pain silently anymore. User's mind has experienced a threshold breakthrough. Now initiating temporary potential to attempt escape. Sealed skill. Life burn has been granted. Alert, usage of this skill will sacrifice the lifespan of the user. Use with extreme caution. The next second my body bursts forth with a billowing fog of red-hot embers and ash covering everything in suffocating darkness. VIT 4.5. 8.5 SPD 4.5. 10 health 120. 400 stamina 140. 420 lightning muscle 0 to 10. 1 out of 10 smoke blast April 10th. 5 out of 10 new sealed skill. Life burn. 0 out of 10. User sacrifices lifespan to greatly increase power to phenomenal levels, potentially rivaling the gods themselves.